Hey guys, so I was sent this story about this female Muslim judge that was found in the Hudson River, in addition to a story about a black male judge that was shot and killed in Chicago. Both of these occurred within a week's time. So this is really interesting to me that we keep finding black people, because this Muslim judge, she's a black woman. Again, Muslim isn't a race, it's a religion. And the majority of Muslims are not Arabs, contrary to what you guys believe. On the continent, there are a ton of Muslims, and there are a ton of African American Muslims in the U.S. too. So we shouldn't sit there and think that because they're Muslim, they're non-black. Like Tariq said, and I do believe it, Muslim is a code word for black. I do believe that, because there are just too many of them. Again, they can sit here and try to make the face of Muslim and Arab, but most Muslims are not Arab. So that's something we need to understand too. And the reason why I emphasize this is because I've gotten many people who, when I do stories about Muslims, they make the comment of, oh, those are Muslims, who cares, hold your own nuts. No, most of those are your people. And furthermore, again, we shouldn't be turning a blind eye to the oppression of anyone. Now, in this situation, because people have done it so much to us with actually other racial groups, by all means, hold your own nuts. But we shouldn't be sitting there assuming that because someone's a Muslim, that they are a person of another race and that they're your enemies. This is a problem that we have, because we've allowed these Caucasoid devils to convince us that no other group of people have our interest in mind, including our foreign brothers and sisters on the continent. And we shouldn't be sitting there thinking that because they're on the continent, somehow they don't care about us. We get too much. We sit here and we talk so much about how these Caucasoids are devils and how we know that they lie. But then we sit there and we regurgitate the same stuff and believe in the same things that we accuse them of lying about. So if you know somebody's lying, you should not be referencing them as a source for something that you believe is the truth. Clearly, the truth is not in them and never has been. And even if it was in them, they're not going to direct that truth and give it to you for your benefit. That's not going to happen. So, there's a video clip about this, and the interesting thing is when we get into this case, it doesn't make any sense. As usual, it doesn't make any sense. And then again, this is one of the reasons why they're trying to put a silence on the people's media, because don't think this is just about taking away ads. Again, like I said in my live streams and other videos, it's not about the ads, because even if they remove the ads, the content is still there. So this is just the first step of them trying to ban the content and and not just black voices, but the people's voices, because that gives you power to undo a lot of the power that they essentially have, and they've obtained it by way of media. Because again, keep in mind that Black Lives Matter became an international movement because of social media, not the mainstream media, because if they controlled the narrative, we already know it would just be a bunch of thugs and criminals getting what's coming to them, rather than the truth of this country, which is that it's rooted in deviltry, and that deviltry is still alive and well today. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the news clip, and then I'll get back to the article.
The first female Muslim judge in the United States was found dead in the Hudson River on Wednesday. According to Reuters, police said Sheila Abdus-Salaam was found floating off Manhattan's west side at about 1:45 p.m. She was 65 years old. Police pulled her clothed body from the water, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. An autopsy will determine the cause of death, police said. Abdus-Salaam became the first African-American woman named to the Court of Appeals when New York Governor Andrew Cuomo appointed her to the New York court in 2013. She was also the first female Muslim to serve as a judge in the U.S., according to the Princeton Encyclopedia of American Political History. The New York Post reported that Abdus-Salaam had been reported missing from her Harlem home earlier on Wednesday, citing unnamed sources.
Now, the thing of it is we already know that this woman is a decorated officer or officer of the court. We already know that, because the judge, that's what they're called as well. But we already know she was a decorated person. But it says a pioneering judge who has become the first Muslim woman in U.S. history to serve on the bench was found dead Wednesday, washed up on the Manhattan side of the Hudson River, sources says. When I go through this article, there's certain things that you need to understand. Like when they say the cause of death is unknown, which an autopsy has revealed, that means that she did not drown in that river. Because it's the way that you tell if somebody drowned is if they had water in their lungs. Now, based on the fact that she didn't drown, because again, they said the cause of death is unknown, then clearly somebody put her in that river who did it. And that's the question of the day. Sheila Abdus-Salaam, 65, was discovered floating in the water near 132nd Street and Hudson Parkway around 1:45, according to police sources. Witnesses have spotted her fully clothed body and called the cops. Sources told the Post that Abdus-Salaam, an associated judge of the Court of Appeals, had been reported missing from her home in Harlem earlier in the day. Well, who reported that, though? And where's the missing persons report? Her husband later identified her body. Sources said it showed no obvious sign of trauma or injuries indicating criminality or foul play. You need to really listen to this right here. Sources said it showed no obvious signs of trauma or injuries indicating criminality or foul play. She was in the Hudson River. She didn't drown, though. So even if they're saying and saying that it and that her death appeared to be a suicide by what though? Because you guys said that her cause of death is unknown. So if it was a suicide and she just threw herself in the river, she would have water in her lungs. She would have drowned. How did she get into that river? That's the thing. They always want to say something as a suicide. Even if it was suicide, she would still have some signs of trauma on her body. And then they're talking about no trauma or injuries indicating criminality or foul play. How did she end up in that river then? Because she had to go into that river after she died. So who put her in there? Because that right there, the act of putting a dead body in the Hudson River, that's criminality right there. That's foul play right there. But see, these are things that they're not going to tell you in the mainstream media. And this is why we need to focus on the people's media, because that doesn't make any sense. And what did her husband say? Because you clearly talked to her husband. Did her husband mention anything about suicide or her being miserable or having any cause or need to take her own life? And then they're saying that her death appeared to be a suicide, but they're giving you no details that would substantiate that claim. Suicide by what? And what is giving you the impression that she took her own life? Justice Sheila Abdus-Salaam was a trailblazing jurist whose life in public service was in pursuit of more fair and more just New York for all. Governor Andrew Cuomo stated in Wednesday night. She was a pioneer, he said. Through her writings, her wisdom, and her unshakable moral compass, she was a force for good, who's a person who, let me tell you, Black people rarely commit suicide, okay? And now all of a sudden in the past 2 to 3 years, notice how every single time a Black person turns up dead, it's all automatically a suicide? Keep in mind, Black people rarely commit suicide at all. And when they do it by way of very specific means, which they would be stating in here. You talk to this woman's husband. What is he saying? Where's the interview on her husband? Where's that at? Because I'm sure her husband will be interested as to how his wife got into the Hudson River. Because Black women, surely in the rare event that they do commit suicide, they're absolutely not throwing themselves in rivers after they died. How did she get there? And then they want to sit there and give you her life story after all of these unanswered questions. Look, they're giving you absolutely no details to substantiate this one paragraph right here. And this is something that we should all be thinking about. So let's go over it again. Her husband later identified her body. Sources said who are the sources, though? Was it a medical practitioner? Was it a person that was it a coroner who performed an autopsy? Who are the sources? Because they act like anybody can just tell you that they act like anybody can just come up with the cause of death for somebody. Like anybody off the street, hi Joe on the corner, what do you think happened to this woman? Saying sources said it showed no obvious signs of traumas or injuries indicating criminality or foul play. Even if you had a police say that, they're not qualified to make that determination because they're not a coroner, and coroners are the only ones who determine cause of death. Last I checked, they're the only ones who perform autopsies, medical examiners. So shouldn't it be saying a medical examiner said it showed no obvious signs of trauma or injuries indicating criminality or foul play? And that her death appeared to be a suicide? But who said that? See, that's the thing. And this is, look, the New York Post already knows that they should be telling you, you can't just say sources said that. You can't just say sources said it. Like, really? But this is what they do because they don't want to give you the full story because it doesn't make any sense. So she committed suicide, and then after she died, she threw herself in a Hudson River. Because if she drowned in a Hudson River, they would just say, the first Muslim judge drowned, death by drowning in the Hudson River. But the fact that they're not saying that, obviously, that's not, drowning wasn't the cause of her death. That's very easy to determine, and they would just be saying medical examiners said it showed no signs of trauma or injuries indicating criminality or foul play. Only a medical examiner can make that determination. You can't sit there and say sources. There's not many people who can do that. They're saying sources as if there's a laundry list of people who could actually make that determination. A police couldn't do it, an attorney couldn't do it. Only a medical examiner or a coroner could do that. So who will be the sources that you did sit that from? And if her death appeared to be a suicide, by what? How are you substantiating that? That's the thing. We need to start really questioning everything that we're fed. Like, I really want you guys to pay attention to the verbiage of this. It says Abdus-Salaam's husband had reported her missing earlier in the day, according to a CBS New York. Police said her body, which they found on the shore of the Hudson River near Harlem, had no obvious signs of trauma, and officials believe her death was not criminal in nature. The medical examiner has not yet determined the cause of death, though the New York Times reported that police are treating her death as a suicide. They don't have the right to do. Why? See, this is what doesn't make any sense. So the medical examiner hasn't given them a determination of death, but the police has decided, I'm going to determine that her death was a suicide. You don't get to make that calling. The police don't get to just say they're going to treat it as a suicide. No, you need to wait until you get the medical examiner's report and then base your investigation off of that. If you still have an ongoing investigation, why are you treating it like a death as a suicide? That's kind of conclusive to me. It kind of sounds like they've already made up their decision on how she died, although clearly they're not asking her husband anything. Could have done an interview with him. They could be saying, we're continuing doing an investigation. We don't know what her death was called. We're not treating it as anything. We're waiting for the medical examiner to give us his or her opinion on what happened. Look, this is 100% why people should not pay attention to these mainstream media, because it's a whole, and then they're always screaming fake news, but they're the one giving you the fake news. Because no credible police officer would jump to a conclusion and say, I'm going to go ahead and treat this death as a suicide, although she was found floating in the Hudson River. Because I don't know how many people drive themselves to the Hudson River and then jump in it to commit suicide. And then they know the medical examiner haven't even determined the cause of death. But then here go the police. We know that they haven't gave us the cause of death, and we're not qualified to make that determination, but we're just going to treat it as a suicide. Just a bunch of bullshit at this point. But then in terms of the Chicago judge, they've already arrested somebody. Let's see this Twitter press conference, because they said a Joshua Smith in connection with the murder of the judge Raymond Miles. A suspect has been charged in connection with the murder of Cook County, Illinois criminal court judge Raymond Miles, who was shot dead outside his home on the city's south side early Monday, police said. Joshua Smith, 37, has been charged with first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and obstruction of justice, said Chicago Police Chief of Detective Melissa Staples in a press conference Wednesday. Smith has previously been convicted of armed robbery in 2003 and served a 6-year sentence, Staples said. Well, where is an image of this Joshua Smith? They charged 37-year-old Joshua Smith. So is that him? And keep in mind, a suspect doesn't mean you've done anything. But is this the Joshua Smith? Miles was the victim of a targeted robbery, Staples said. An investigation into the shell casing found that the scene indicate the same gun used to kill Miles was used in an armed robbery in January in which the victim was shot non-fatally, Staples said. There is no indication that the incidents were related, but Staples said they highlighted the problem that illegal guns are being used over and over, causes havoc in the community. Well, so basically they're saying he's a suspect because the shell casings indicate the same gun was used, but you didn't say that gun belonged to Joshua Smith. It either did or it didn't. And this is the thing that they keep leaving out pertinent details. They're just saying that an investigation into the shell casings found at the scene indicate that the same gun, whether the same gun or the same type of gun used to kill Miles, that was used in an armed robbery in January in which the victim was shot non-fatally, Staples said. There is no indication that the incidents were related, but Staples said that they highlight the problem. Okay, but that doesn't, again, whether the same exact gun or the same type of gun, because there's guns and then they use all the same bullets, so all of the shell casings would be the same. Security cameras installed at neighbors' homes played a crucial role in helping police identify a vehicle involved in the incident. Staples said, recommending that all homeowners add the technology. So why aren't you showing any of the security camera data, though? Once detective located a vehicle that matched the one seen in the surveillance footage. So again, they don't even know if this is the vehicle. They're just getting one that looked like it. They noticed that the plate had been changed to hinder the investigation. Changed how? And how did you come to the determination that it was done to hinder the investigation? But authorities later noticed that the front and rear plates were different, she said, and they began questioning individuals. The owner of the car is not believed to be involved in the incident. Okay, so then how did you come to this black man then? Smith was arrested after he drove himself to the police station for questioning. If this makes sense to you, then I don't know what to say. If this makes sense to you, because how many black men with prior criminal records do you know that just go to the station and then say, "Hi, I'm here so you can just question me about killing this judge," which surely is going to get me a death sentence. If you have surveillance camera, if the person got out the car and went and shot the judge, wouldn't that surveillance camera have picked up that too? And where would that surveillance video be? Because you could certainly show it. Look, this is my theme. My mind and the way my brain works is, it is designed to immediately pick up things that are inconsistent and don't make sense. That's how my mind works. And the interesting thing is that these investigators are trained to do the same thing. So they already know that this doesn't make any sense. They're feeding it to you because they know that you're not trained to look at these things with a critical eye like this. Because they're going to say casings found at the scene indicate that the same gun. Let me explain something to you. They don't have the ability to tell you if it was the same exact gun. They will just tell you it was the same type of gun. Because let's just say you get a 48 caliber. Those are going to take all of those are going to take the same bullets. Ruger, it means all Rugers are going to have the same type of bullets. Okay? So they can only tell you that it was the same type of gun. They can't tell you, this 100% was the same gun. Yep, this was the same gun. Because they don't really know that. And that's why they're saying found at the scene indicate. Not determined. It indicates. That means, okay, well, this could have been the case, but they're not telling you it determined that the same gun. They can say the same type of gun was used to kill Miles that was used in an armed robbery in January in which the victim was shot non-fatally. And generally, if people are going around and robbing people and they don't even shoot the people that they're robbing, this isn't a person who likes to kill. And then they said Miles was the victim of a targeted robbery. Based on what, though? Why would they target a judge? What person is going to just go decide to target a judge? They're also not telling you why they think it was a targeted robbery, rather than just a random botched robbery. And then they want you to believe that this man actually walked into the owner of the car is not believed to be involved in the incident. Why? Why? Why is the owner of the car not? But it's that person's car. How did it become Smith that they think was driving this person's car? And what would make Smith want to target this judge? Was this judge the one that sent him to jail for that robbery charge? Then they're saying Smith was arrested after he drove himself to the police station for questioning. Why would he do that? Because how would he know that they even suspected him as a person? Really? The Smith doesn't know anything about the details of what the police found at the scene of this. So why would he just get up one day and say, yeah, today looks like a good day to drive myself to the police station for questioning? Doesn't add up. It doesn't add up just as much as this doesn't add up, where they're saying that there's no obvious signs of criminality or foul play. She was in the Hudson River. Okay, she didn't throw herself there. It's very easy for a medical examiner to determine whether somebody drowned or not. You either have water in your lungs or you didn't. Doesn't make sense. But this is what the news feeds you because this is what they want you to believe. They don't want you to see that this is some bullshit 100 through and through. It just doesn't make any sense. I'll leave the links in the description box. Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Manhattan's west side at about 1:45 p.m. She was 65 years old. Police pulled her clothed body from the water, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. An autopsy will determine the cause of death, police said. Abdus-Salaam became the first African-American woman named to the Court of Appeals when New York Governor Andrew Cuomo appointed her to the New York court in 2013. She was also the first female Muslim to serve as a judge in the U.S., according to the Princeton Encyclopedia of American Political History. The New York Post reported that Abdus-Salaam had been reported missing from her Harlem home earlier on Wednesday, citing unnamed sources.
Now, the thing of it is we already know that this woman is a decorated officer or officer of the court. We already know that because the judge, that's what they're called as well. But we already know she was a decorated person But it says a pioneering judge who has become the first Muslim woman in U.S. history to serve on the bench was found dead Wednesday, washed up on the Manhattan side of the Hudson River, sources says. When I go through this article, there's certain things that you need to understand. Like when they say the cause of death is unknown, which an autopsy has revealed, that means that she did not drown in that river. Because it's the way that you tell if somebody drowned is if they had water in their lungs. Now, based on the fact that she didn't drown, because again, they said the cause of death is unknown, then clearly somebody put her in that river. Who did it? And that's the question of the day. Sheila Abdus-Salaam, 65, was discovered floating in the water near 132nd Street and Hudson Parkway around 1:45, according to police sources. Witnesses have spotted her fully clothed body and called the cops. Sources told the Post that Abdus-Salaam, an associated judge of the Court of Appeals, had been reported missing from her home in Harlem earlier, rather than sisters on the continent. And we shouldn't be sitting there thinking that because they're on the continent, somehow they don't care about us. You know, we get too much. We sit here and we talk so much about how these Caucasoids are devils and how we know that they lie. But then we sit there and we regurgitate the same stuff and believe in the same things that we accuse them of lying about. So if you know somebody's lying, you should not be referencing them as a source for something that you believe is the truth. Clearly, the truth is not in them and never has been. And even if it was in them, they're not going to direct that truth and give it to you for your benefit. That's not going to happen. So, there's a video clip about this, and the interesting thing is when we get into this case, it doesn't make any sense. As usual, it doesn't make any sense. And then again, this is one of the reasons why they're trying to put a silence on the people's media, because don't think this is just about taking away ads. Again, like I said in my live streams and other videos, it's not about the ads, because even if they remove the ads, the content is still there. So this is just the first step of them trying to ban the content and and not just Black voices, but the people's voices, because that gives you power to undo a lot of the power that they essentially have, and they've obtained it by way of media. Because again, keep in mind that Black Lives Matter became an international movement because of social media, not the mainstream media, because if they controlled the narrative, we already know it would just be a bunch of thugs and criminals getting what's coming to them, rather than the truth of this country, which is that it's rooted in deviltry, and that deviltry is still alive and well today. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the news clip, and then I'll get back to the article.
The first female Muslim judge in the United States was found dead in the Hudson River on Wednesday. According to Reuters, police said Sheila Abdus-Salaam was found floating off.
Suicide by what? And what is giving you the impression that she took her own life? Justice Sheila Abdus-Salaam was a trailblazing jurist whose life in public service was in pursuit of more fair and more just New York for all. Governor Andrew Cuomo stated in Wednesday night. She was a pioneer, he said. Through her writings, her wisdom, and her unshakable moral compass, she was a force for good, who's a person who, let me tell you, Black people rarely commit suicide, okay? And now all of a sudden in the past 2 to 3 years, notice how every single time a Black person turns up dead, it's all automatically a suicide? Keep in mind, Black people rarely commit suicide at all. And when they do it by way of very specific means, which they would be stating in here. You talk to this woman's husband. What is he saying? Where's the interview on her husband? Where's that at? Because I'm sure her husband will be interested as to how his wife got into the Hudson River. Because Black women, surely in the rare event that they do commit suicide, they're absolutely not throwing themselves in rivers after they died. How did she get there? And then they want to sit there and give you her life story after all of these unanswered questions. Look, they're giving you absolutely no details to substantiate this one paragraph right here. And this is something that we should all be thinking about. So let's go over it again. Her husband later identified her body. Sources said it was in the day. Well, who reported that though? And where's the missing persons report? Her husband later identified her body. Sources said it showed no obvious sign of trauma or injuries indicating criminality or foul play. You need to really listen to this right here. Sources said it showed no obvious signs of trauma or injuries indicating criminality or foul play. She was in the Hudson River. She didn't drown, though. So even if they're saying and saying that it and that her death appeared to be a suicide by what though? Because you guys said that her cause of death is unknown. So if it was a suicide and she just threw herself in the river, she would have water in her lungs. She would have drowned. How did she get into that river? That's the thing. They always want to say something as a suicide. Even if it was suicide, she would still have some signs of trauma on her body. And then they're talking about no trauma or injuries indicating criminality or foul play. How did she end up in that river then? Because she had to go into that river after she died. So who put her in there? Because that right there, the act of putting a dead body in the Hudson River, that's criminality right there. That's foul play right there. But see, these are things that they're not going to tell you in the mainstream media. And this is why we need to focus on the people's media, because that doesn't make any sense. And what did her husband say? Because you clearly talked to her husband. Did her husband mention anything about suicide or her being miserable or having any cause or need to take her own life? And then they're saying that her death appeared to be a suicide, but they're giving you no details that would substantiate that claim. Hey guys, so I was sent this story about this female Muslim judge that was found in the Hudson River, in addition to a story about a black male judge that was shot and killed in Chicago. Both of these occurred within a week's time. So this is really interesting to me that we keep finding black people, because this Muslim judge, she's a black woman. Again, Muslim isn't a race, it's a religion. And the majority of Muslims are not Arabs, contrary to what you guys believe. On the continent, there are a ton of Muslims, and there are a ton of African-American Muslims in the U.S. too. So we shouldn't sit there and think that because they're Muslim, they're non-black. Like Tariq said, and I do believe it, Muslim is a code word for black. I do believe that, because there are just too many of them. Again, they can sit here and try to make the face of Muslim and Arab, but most Muslims are not Arab. So that's something we need to understand too. And the reason why I emphasize this is because I've gotten many people who, when I do stories about Muslims, they make the comment of, oh, those are Muslims, who cares, hold your own nuts. No, most of those are your people. And furthermore, again, we shouldn't be turning a blind eye to the oppression of anyone. Now, in this situation, because people have done it so much to us with actually other racial groups, by all means, hold your own nuts. But we shouldn't be sitting there assuming that because someone's a Muslim, that they are a person of another race and that they're your enemies. This is a problem that we have, because we've allowed these Caucasoid devils to convince us that no other group of people have our interest in mind, including our foreign